Hello and welcome to the Tower of God video. Today we're going to be talking about Alphine, Shadow Girl. She is a blue support. I would talk about Kaiser, the SSR plus data tower version, but her details aren't out, so here we are. So yeah, today we're going to be talking about Alphine. Let's look at the video before we get into that kit. She looks alright. I don't really have any strong opinions on this. The fox was kind of cool with the little tattoo thing here. Cool. She's the blue support. She's an anima. Cool. Her animations are whatever. They've done a lot of like connect recently, right? You have her, you have CXia. So I'm very curious on like why. But this unit is kind of interesting because this unit doesn't buff anything, which is crazy, right? And it's an SSR plus, and not saying it's a bad thing because the utility that this unit brings is so good. But also, it's the first type of a support unit that doesn't really buff anybody in terms of like SSR plus, right? So this is really interesting unit. So either way, let's look at this kit. So the first, let's go to the passive is like usual. Called Skeleton Anima. At the start of battle, Alphine summons observers that can steal her and the ally with the highest attack, excluding summoned beings, for n seconds. After that, every n second she summons an observer that can steal her and the ally with the lowest HP, excluding summoned beings, for n seconds and recovers the HP by n% of attack. Additionally, each time a Shadow Fox is summoned, increase her defense and percentage and HP by whatever. So basically, the more you use your ult, the more she gets buffed on her HP and defense, which is cool. Either way, at the beginning of the battle, basically what we're trying to say is a character with the highest attack, so hopefully a damage dealing unit, okay, will get concealed, which is good because a lot of damage dealing units need help, right? So you have units like Princess that needs help. You need White's also damage dealing unit that needs help. You have Gustang who has survivability issues, right? So having a unit that helps the attack not die instantly is really important because that's the weakness of damage dealing units. They don't have survivability, right? So this is already great, right? And then also after that, you only conceals them at the beginning of the fight. Once that cooldown disappears, she starts concealing herself and the unit with the lowest HP, which is most of the time it's mostly a unit like it's mostly a tank or a support unit, but that's good because apart from the super duper recent units, most support units and most tanks, again, most support units needs help surviving. And most units need help surviving anyways. That's why Barry is so valued upon, is because Barry gives them an extra like few seconds, a few minutes to build up to keep surviving, right? And but if they do get a tank instead, you really have to worry and think about what type of tank you're gonna put in your team when you have Alphine on there, because you don't want a tank that provokes, and then after they get provoked, they get concealed. What's the provoke? It's gone, bro. So I don't really know how that would clash, but I think that's like the biggest thing is you want to make sure that the tank that you use doesn't have provoke. So maybe if you have a, like maybe a unit like Caliban might be good over something like someone like Rack, or you get what I'm trying to say, right? Which is good, and then she also concealed herself, which is nice. Anyway, Shadow Fox. Okay, Alphine becomes immune to status effects and summons a Shadow Fox with stats equal to n% of her stats at the center of the enemy territory for n seconds. So boom, kind of like Gasratch's thing, little fox thing, like little cat. Shadow Fox commands all enemies to attack it and deals damage equal to n% of the enemies in range for every second. The damage is probably going to be really shitty, doesn't matter. But what does matter is this. It's basically a provoke slash a grouping where all the enemies just like squaddle towards the Shadow Fox and start hitting it. Okay, Shadow Fox is immune to status effects and debuffing, and when the summon ends, deal damage to n% of attack to nearby enemies and seals them for n seconds. Sealing is big. Sealing is big because most enemies are going to be hitting this goddamn fox and not going to be hitting you, so you're going to be safe for a while while this ult is happening. On top of that, they stop the enemy from using skills, which is crazy, okay? Which is crazy. Special move cannot be reused while the Shadow Fox is in the battlefield. That's basically a buff. It's a nerf, but it was needed, bro. Like, okay, not to like us, because obviously we would love to have the Fox be there the entire time and still the enemy the entire game. He's basically won. But could you imagine finding a Delphine that just keeps spamming ult? and your character starts sealed the entire battle. No, you don't want to deal with that. So I'm okay with this. Also specifically, just but all it means is that the Fox will come in, the ult will happen, the ult ends. You just reactivate the Fox anyways, right? The Fox is gonna be there a lot of the time, is what I think, right? I'm kind of curious to see how that will work with Trauma Ray's like summoning ability. Like, does the Fox summoning and then leaving, does that buff Trauma Ray consistently? I'm kind of curious about that one too. Either way, let's look at her skills. Alphine, active skills. Alphine connects the shadow between the enemy with the highest HP and the ally with the lowest HP for n seconds. The enemy whose shadow is connected takes damage equal to 10% of the match XP every second. I'm assuming it kind of looks like CXCS, where like it's like enemy team, the guy with lowest HP and whatever. I don't know. We'll see how good it is, but CXCS wasn't as good as I thought it was. Either way, allies whose shadow is connected recovers N% of the max HP every second, and the HP does not drop below N. Basically, it means the character is invincible. Okay, whoever gets connected to this skill specifically, the HP won't drop below a certain number, which means it's basically your free bar for a while. Okay, and also you debuff the enemy, which is really good in terms of like HP. You do a little bit of damage, you know. Basically, this is just a fancy way of saying the character with the lowest HP is invincible while this kill is happening, which is nice. And if the enemy who was connected that dies before the duration ends, Alphine recovers 10% of the skill's max cooldown, which is cool. Okay, cool. Cool. Either way, with Observer, Alphine's attack the random enemies for n seconds, dealing 10% of her attack damage every second, reducing their accuracy and evasiveness. That's crazy. I think that's crazy. I think this is not talked enough. I think that this just makes her a really good unit for pushing deficits. Your deficit, your accuracy is low, you don't know what to do, put an Alphine in there. She basically hides three of your goddamn units, and one of them is gonna be invincible at some point. It's crazy. Right? Well, one then two, but then still, either way, you get what I'm trying to say, right? Like, she's gonna be a very good unit to help with deficit. For each summon observer that reduces by n due to insufficient enemies, the duration of the observers increases by n seconds. So, let's say you're supposed to get 5 enemies, and there's only 2 enemies who have survived. The 3 gaps are just gonna make the duration of this debuff on the enemy team longer, which is also really good. So, yeah. So now we're going to go over the okay, let me tell you my opinions on her. I think she's going to be really, really strong. But I don't know how strong she's going to be because we've never had a unit like this specifically. Most of the time when we have a support unit, they do things like buff attack and defense, they buff swiftness, they buff energy, they do something along those lines. This is the first type of unit that doesn't do any of that. This unit is based on survivability and concealments, which is really good. Her ult is really strong. I think her ult is very. I think the only thing that's not slept on in this unit is the shadow connection. But I think if you look at each kit individually, they're very, very strong, right? You have a Fox that basically provokes the entire goddamn field, and then also you'll be able to. Well, the goal is to like have this ult consistently. But if you have this unit with another support, you're gonna be able to spam this skill consistently, right? Wow, I can't speak. What makes Provoke so good is that it puts the attention away from units that should die, which what makes tank so good. But with this unit has a Fox that's basically a tank. So that's basically a tank for you. You ult, the enemy will fight this Fox, and then you'll be able to progress everything. But not only does it provoke, they also support the unit with the lowest HP, and the unit with lowest HP, unless if it's a tank, has really bad survivability issues. Most units, apart from the recent ones that just came out, have survivability issues, right? And damage zone units have survivability issues. That's why we need supports, right? You have White, who dies very quickly. You have the Princess, who dies very quickly. That just came out, but she gets really, really strong near the end. But she has to get there. But this unit will help her get there because she's concealed for the first half of the goddamn match, right? In the character with the lowest HP, if it's a support unit, if you can have Bari, yes, obviously, but having the unit concealed is so good. The only thing that I'm a little worried about is that sometimes the concealment might clash with the shadow connection because they both aim for the ally with the lowest HP, right? Ally with the lowest HP, and then here the concealment happens with the ally with the lowest HP. So I'm assuming this is just a way to protect for AoE attacks, because if you're concealed and no AoE attack will hit you, you're gonna get hit by the shadow. You're gonna lose HP. But if you have shadow connection, it won't drop below a certain amount. That means that unit will not really die if you get hit by an AoE attack because of the shadow connection. So I'm assuming that's what it is, but I don't really know how those two will interact. I will say though, if you do get this character, team building will be very, very important, because like I said before, you don't want to have a tank that provokes and then they're concealed. And also, what if the tank provokes on one end and then this unit provokes with the Shadow Fox? How would they clash, right? And you kind of want to make sure that if there's any provoke that you would have on that team, you want it to be the Shadow Fox, because Shadow Fox isn't an actual unit. So if the Shadow Fox dies, boo-hoo, we can just summon another one. But if your tank dies, you're kind of screwed. So team building will be very important. But like I said before, I don't really know how strong she's going to be. But her kit is very, very strong, because you have, at the beginning of the game, automatically, the damaging unit will not die, which is great, because that's how you kill. That's how you win the game. You win the game by out damaging the enemy team, by killing them all. So that's great. After that's done, you have two concealments. One of them is going to be you, and you're really important because you provoke. You also reduce accuracy and evasiveness, right? And you also make one of your teams invincible. So you have that, and then it's crazy. And the fact that it's also accuracy and evasiveness decrease on the enemy team just means that you'll be able to. She will help a lot for deficits. I don't know, which I don't think people are really getting. But yeah, this unit seems very, very strong just automatically. But like I said before, I don't know how strong. I'm not sure if this beats invincibility or if it's stronger than invincibility, because well, she's a stronger unit than an invincibility unit like Evan because of this ult. But we'll see. We'll see. Like I said, she already has a strong kit. I'm assuming her revolution is gonna be very, very strong. I don't know. I have a feeling. I have a feeling. I have a feeling. If I could take a guess on what it's going to be, maybe some status effects, status immunities on her passive. If I had to take a, no, that'd be really strong. But is what I'm assuming. I just hope it's not like resistances, or it's not invincibility. I hope it's like something really interesting. Yeah, and I'm assuming that the might like her exclusive equipment is probably gonna make this really, really strong. This is like you don't really need to add much to this shadow connection to make it strong, because it's already really, really strong. I'm assuming the exclusive equipment will focus on this, because while this is strong, it's very situational. Basically, the lower deficit you have, the less value you'll get off of this. So yeah, either way, that's the initial thought of this character. If I had to take a guess, I think she might be top 5. I'm not sure about top 3. But if she is top 3, I think her value skyrockets, because there's no other units that does what she does. Either amazing, either really terrible. We won't know until we have her on the game. But either way, that's the video, and peace.